My sister sneered. I don't care whose name is on the deed. That lake house belongs to the family. Then she planned her wedding there anyway. So I said, try it, and you'll spend your honeymoon behind bars. 6 months ago, I lost my grandfather. He wasn't just a man. He was my mentor, the one who built his construction business from nothing and taught me everything about hard work and integrity. From the age of 15, I spent every summer by his side on job sites, learning the trade. By 18, I was working full-time for him, juggling that with community college at night. My sister Emily was different. She chose an expensive private university, studying art history, while her parents took out loans to support her. Her summers were spent traveling Europe with friends. She'd visit Grandpa maybe twice a year, usually when gifts were involved. I'm not judging her choices. We're just wired differently. Then came the reading of Grandpa's will, and that's when everything changed. He left me his cherished lake house in Vermont, a stunning 4-bedroom cabin on 10 acres with private lake access worth about $850,000. For Emily, he left $50,000 cash and his vintage watch collection valued around $30,000. The rest went to charities. The will even included a letter explaining his decisions. For me, he wrote about our shared memories there, learning to fish, rebuilding the dock, carpentry lessons. He wanted the property to stay with someone who understood its true value beyond money. For Emily, he expressed pride in her artistic pursuits, hoping the money would help her establish her career. My mother, Janet, was furious, absolutely livid. She started calling me daily, insisting that family wealth should benefit all children equally. Regardless of Grandpa's actual intentions, she claimed he was old-fashioned, that he played favorites because I was a male and worked in construction just like him. Her demand was simple: sell the lake house and split the proceeds with Emily. Now I love my sister. We'd always been close despite our different paths. Emily herself didn't directly ask for the money, but her comments stung. She talked about how lucky I was, how the house could solve all her problems. She had about $80,000 in student loans and credit card debt. And then my mother escalated. She dragged in our extended family. My aunt called me selfish at Sunday dinner. My uncle said I was disrespecting family values, claiming Grandpa would have wanted us to take care of each other, and that I was greedy for keeping it all. The thing is, I had no intention of selling. This house wasn't just sentimental. My wife Sarah and I were planning to start a family, dreaming of our kids spending summers there, just like I did. We lived in a tiny apartment in Boston, and this house represented a future we could never otherwise afford. My mother's latest argument. I had a stable career running my own construction company while Emily was struggling working part-time at a gallery doing freelance writing. She actually said it was my duty as the older brother to even things out. I tried to compromise. I offered Emily full use of the house whenever she wanted, even offered to pay for her flights. I said she could have her wedding there someday. I'd even help her with her loans from my own savings. But my mother said it wasn't enough. She wanted me to sell and split or buy Emily out for $400,000, half the value, even after her own inheritance. I'd shared my story online, hoping for some perspective, and the consensus was clear. I was not the bad guy, and I should honor my grandfather's wishes. I felt validated, but still held out hope for a peaceful resolution. That hope died a brutal death that weekend. First, I had a long, heartfelt conversation with Emily. She admitted she was hurt by the inheritance disparity, but swore she understood Grandpa's reasoning. We hugged it out. I thought we were good. I reiterated all my offers, even adding that I'd help with a down payment on a condo when she was ready. She seemed genuinely grateful. My mother, however, doubled down. She created a family group chat calling it Fairness for Emily, sharing articles about inheritance inequality. I muted it, but Sarah showed me the highlights. Janet was actively building a case that I was a manipulative son poisoning Grandpa against his own granddaughter. Then the happy news. Emily called ecstatic to say her boyfriend Mark had proposed. I was thrilled for her and immediately offered the lake house for their wedding. She shrieked with joy, talking about a rustic, elegant summer wedding next June. Fast forward to Sunday, Sarah and I drove up to the lake house for the weekend. The place needed work. Grandpa had been ill and things had been neglected. But as we pulled up, we saw 3 cars, Emily's, Mark's, and a van from Evergreen Wedding Planning. Inside, Emily was parading a wedding planner around my house like she owned the place. They were talking about removing walls to open up the flow, updating the kitchen for the reception. The planner was taking measurements, photos of every room. When I finally asked what was happening, Emily cheerfully announced she was getting a head start on planning our family lake house wedding. Note the pronoun. The planner handed me her card, gushing about transforming this hidden gem into a venue. I pulled Emily aside, reminding her this was my house, not a family property. She rolled her eyes. Come on, James. We both know Mum's right. This place should belong to both of us. I'm just planning my wedding at my family's lake house. That's when I saw it. She'd already posted on Instagram. Can't wait to marry my best friend at our family's beautiful lake property. I told everyone to leave. Emily immediately burst into tears, screaming that I was ruining her engagement joy, being controlling about a house I didn't even pay for. Mark tried to mediate, suggesting we calm down and discuss this like family. The wedding planner looked mortified and quickly fled. Emily called our mother, Janet, who lives 40 minutes away, must have sped here because she arrived within the hour. She marched in like she owned the place, didn't even acknowledge Sarah and started berating me for traumatizing Emily on her special planning day. The argument that followed was brutal. Janet claimed Grandpa was mentally declining when he wrote the will. Emily accused me of manipulating a sick old man for financial gain. Janet threatened to contest the will, even though our estate lawyer had already confirmed she had no grounds. Emily wailed that I was stealing her dream wedding venue. Then my mother called Sarah a gold digger who hit the jackpot. That's when I snapped. Sarah grew up in foster care, worked 3 jobs to put herself through nursing school, and never asked me for anything. She even insisted on a prenup before we married to prove she wasn't after money. I told them all to leave my property immediately, or I'd call the police for trespassing. Emily screamed I couldn't ban her from her inheritance. Janet said I was dead to her unless I did the right thing. They left, but not before Emily posted a tearful video on Facebook claiming her brother was gatekeeping family property and ruining her wedding dreams. The post went viral within our extended family. I was bombarded with messages calling me heartless, selfish, not the man Grandpa raised. Sarah and I spent the rest of the weekend in a stunned silence, fixing up the dock, trying to process it all. I found myself talking to Grandpa's picture, apologizing for the sheer drama around his beloved lake house. I explicitly revoked my offer to host Emily's wedding. I installed security cameras and changed the locks. Emily, it turned out, had made copies of the spare key. My lawyer friend advised me to document everything. The family group chat exploded. Even cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were weighing in. But then my dad, who divorced my mum 10 years ago, texted me. He said he was proud of me for standing my ground and that Grandpa would be too. That made me cry. I didn't know how to fix this. I loved my sister, but she was showing a side of herself I'd never seen. My mother had always been controlling, but this level of manipulation was new. I started to wonder if I ever truly knew them. The will, by the way, was rock solid. Grandpa had it properly executed with witnesses and a lawyer. Even underwent a medical evaluation 2 months before changing it, specifically to prevent challenges. The house was legally mine, title insurance and all. I wasn't worried about legal challenges. I was worried about the destruction of my family. Things only got worse. I never thought I'd be back with another update. But the situation escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. Buckle up because this is wild. After the house invasion, I went low contact with my mother and Emily. I didn't block them entirely. They were still family after all, but I restricted their social media access and only responded to actual emergencies. For about 3 weeks, things were quiet. I should have known they were planning something. It started with a letter from a lawyer, not a cease and desist, not a lawsuit, not yet. It was a formal request for mediation seeking to resolve the unfair distribution of the Patterson estate. Patterson was Grandpa's last name. The letter argued that Grandpa was unduly influenced and that the will didn't reflect his true intentions of equal treatment for his grandchildren. I immediately called the estate attorney who handled Grandpa's will. He laughed. Actually laughed. He said it was the most baseless claim he'd seen in 30 years. He pulled out Grandpa's file, a medical evaluation confirming mental competency, a video recording of Grandpa explaining his bequests, previous wills showing a consistent pattern. I always got the lake house. Emily always got cash v. valuables, and sworn statements from witnesses. The lawyer said my mother and Emily were fishing, hoping I'd settle to avoid family drama. He was right. 2 days later, Emily showed up at my construction company office with Mark and a different lawyer. She was wearing what I can only describe as a sympathy costume. No makeup, messy hair, clothes that looked deliberately wrinkled. The lawyer introduced himself as specializing in family inheritance disputes and handed me a document. They weren't just asking for half the lake house value anymore. They demanded 50% of the lake house value, $425,000 emotional distress damages for being excluded, $100,000 reimbursement for wedding venue changes, $50,000 coverage of Emily's student loans. Claiming I got the educational advantage of working with Grandpa, $80,000, a grand total of $655,000. I actually laughed. It was apparently the wrong response. Emily burst into what I'm now convinced were fake tears, wailing about how I was enjoying her misery. Mark comforted her, giving me a death glare. The lawyer said this was a generous offer to avoid a messy public trial. I told them to leave. Emily's tears mysteriously stopped and she hissed, "You'll regret this. James, Mum was right about you." The mask had fully slipped. That evening, I found out what she meant. Emily had started a GoFundMe. Help me fight for my grandfather's legacy. The description was a masterpiece of manipulation. My name is Emily Patterson, and I'm heartbroken to share my story. When my beloved grandfather passed, I discovered he'd left our family's historic lake house worth nearly $1 million solely to my older brother. This came as a shock, as Grandpa always said the house would be for the family. I believe my grandfather was pressured in his final years. My brother, who worked in Grandpa's construction business, had exclusive access to him while I was away at college, pursuing the education Grandpa always said he wanted for me. Now I'm drowning in student debt while my brother enjoys $1 million property. All I want is fairness, to buy my own home, pay off my education, and honor what I believe were my grandfather's true wishes. Please help me fight for justice and family equality. She set the goal at $50,000 for legal fees. Within 24 hours, she'd raised $7,000, mostly from extended family and friends who didn't know the whole story. The comments were brutal. James should be ashamed. A greedy man always pushes out the women in the family. Elder abuse is real. Report him. Emily, you deserve that house. Your grandfather would be heartbroken. I was advised not to respond publicly, but I couldn't help myself. I posted a single comment laying out the facts. The will was legally sound, medically documented. Emily received $80,000 in cash and valuables. I offered multiple compromises, including free use of the house. The inheritance reflected our different relationships with Grandpa. My comment was deleted within an hour. Emily had blocked me from commenting. Then came the social media campaign. Emily started posting old photos of her and Grandpa with captions like, "I miss you every day. I promise I'm fighting for what's right. #broken heart." She conveniently chose photos from when she was very young. None from the past 10 years when she barely visited. My mother joined in posting essays about inheritance inequality, sexism, and family wealth distribution. She even started a hashtag #justice for Emily. Their friends shared it. Local influencers picked it up. A regional news blog ran a story. Local woman fights for fair inheritance after grandfather leaves everything to brother. The reporter had only interviewed Emily and my mother. When I reached out to give my side, I was told they were focusing on the human interest angle of women's inheritance rights. They conveniently didn't mention that Emily had inherited significant money, just that her brother got the family estate. The pressure mounted. I received daily calls from family members saying, "Just give her something to make this stop." Messages from high school friends asking how I could do this to Emily. One-star reviews appeared on my company's Google page calling me a thief and elder abuser. There was even a petition at my church to encourage James to do the right thing. Sarah was harassed at her hospital. Someone left printouts of Emily's GoFundMe in the break room with, "Is this your husband?" written on them. Her co-workers started treating her differently. One nurse actually asked if she was proud of marrying into stolen money. We drove to the lake house to escape for a weekend only to find a for sale sign in the yard. Emily had called a realtor and pretended to be the owner. The realtor was actually showing the property to a couple when we arrived. I had to show documentation proving ownership and threatened legal action before they left. That night, as Sarah and I sat on the dock trying to find some peace, I made a decision. I called my lawyer. I told him to prepare a cease and desist letter, not just for the harassment, but for the defamation, the GoFundMe fraud, and the attempted sale of my property. And I did something Grandpa would have absolutely approved of. I documented everything, every post, every message, every false claim. I created a timeline showing Emily's actual relationship with Grandpa, the missed birthdays, the unreturned calls, the visits that only happened when she needed money. Most importantly, I digitized something I'd almost forgotten about. Grandpa's journals. He'd kept detailed diaries for 40 years. The entries about Emily were heartbreaking. Emily's birthday today. Send a card and check. No, thank you. Call invited Emily to the lake for 4th of July. She said she had plans with friends. Later saw photos of her at a beach house party. Emily needed money for books. Sent $500. James told me he saw her post about her new designer purse the next day. And then this gut-wrenching entry last full appointment today. Lawyer asked about Emily. Told him she's getting cash easier for her to use. The lake should go to someone who sees it as more than property value. That last entry was dated just 2 months before he died when my mother claimed he was mentally declining. I was done trying to preserve relationships with people who only saw dollar signs where memory should be. Grandpa didn't just leave me a house. He left me a reminder of what real family looks like. It looks like summer mornings learning to fish, afternoons rebuilding a dock, evenings listening to stories on the porch. Emily and my mother had made their choice. They chose greed over family, lies over truth, manipulation over love. I was choosing to honor the man who actually knew what family meant. This will be my final update. It's hard to write because it means accepting that my family, as I knew it, is gone. But I owe closure to those who followed this journey. And honestly, I need to write this for my own peace of mind. After my last post, my lawyer and I sent a comprehensive cease and desist letter to both Emily and my mother. It detailed the defamation, harassment, fraudulent GoFundMe, attempted property fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We demanded the immediate cessation of all defamatory posts, the take-own of the GoFundMe with refunds to donors, a public retraction of false claims, and no further contact with my wife or me outside of legal channels. Emily's response came within 48 hours, not through her lawyer, but through a Facebook Live video. She sat in her apartment surrounded by tissues, crying about how her abusive brother was now trying to silence her with legal intimidation. She claimed I was weaponizing wealth to oppress her, painting herself as a David fighting Goliath. The video went viral in our community. #Justice for Emily became #StandWithEmily. Local news picked it up. The narrative was compelling. Wealthy contractor uses lawyers to silence struggling artist fighting for her inheritance. The truth didn't matter anymore. The story did. What Emily didn't realize was that going public meant everything became fair game. My lawyer had warned them that continued defamation would result in us releasing evidence. They called our bluff. We didn't bluff. We created a simple website, The Truth About the Patterson Estate. On it, we posted the full will with Grandpa's letter explaining his decisions, the medical competency evaluation, the video of Grandpa clear and articulate, explaining his bequests, excerpts from his journals showing the true relationship patterns, documentation of what Emily actually inherited, $80,000 in value, screenshots of Emily's social media from the past 5 years, showing her lavish lifestyle while she claimed poverty, proof that her student loans were actually 40% credit card debt from shopping, and of course, the multiple generous offers I'd made that she rejected. The most damning evidence. A series of texts between Emily and her friend that we legally obtained during discovery. Emily had written, "Once I get James to crack, I'm buying a condo in Back Bay. Mom says if we keep the pressure up, he'll pay us off to make it go away. And this gem, the GoFundMe, is genius. Even if we don't win legally, I'll have enough for a down payment." These idiots actually believe I was close with Grandpa. The backlash was swift and brutal. The GoFundMe was investigated and shut down. Emily had to refund over $15,000 in donations. Several family members who donated called me, apologizing, saying they'd been blinded by her tears. But my mother doubled down. She filed an actual lawsuit contesting the will. Her grounds, undue influence and lack of testament capacity. She hired an expensive lawyer convinced she could win. The trial was last month. It lasted 3 days. My mother's lawyer painted me as a calculating manipulator who isolated a dying old man. They even brought in a psychologist who'd never met Grandpa to testify about theoretical cognitive decline. They presented Emily as a loving granddaughter denied her birthright. Our defense was simple facts. Grandpa's doctor testified about his mental sharpness. His accountant explained how Grandpa had discussed the will rationally. We played the video where Grandpa clearly and articulately explained, "I'm leaving the lake house to James because he understands what I built there. It's not about the money. It's about the memories, the traditions, the values. Emily is a lovely girl, but she sees things differently. The cash will serve her better. I hope she uses it wisely." The judge's ruling was swift and harsh. Not only did he uphold the will, but he also ordered my mother and Emily to pay my legal fees for bringing a frivolous lawsuit intended to harass. He called their actions a cynical attempt to override the clear wishes of the deceased. The aftermath was brutal. My mother sent me one final email. "You may have won legally, but you've lost your family. I hope that house was worth your sister and mother. Don't contact us again." Emily posted a final Instagram story. Sometimes you learn who people really are when money's involved. Moving on and healing from toxic family. Sparkles. The irony wasn't lost on me. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. About 2 weeks after the trial, I received a call from Mark, Emily's former fiancé. He asked to meet privately over coffee. He told me he'd ended their engagement. I couldn't marry someone who could lie so easily. He said when she cried in your office that day. She'd practiced in the mirror that morning. The whole thing was planned. I thought I knew her, but the person I saw during this, that wasn't the woman I proposed to. He also revealed that Emily had already spent her entire inheritance. The $50,000 cash gone in 6 months on a luxury car lease, designer clothes, and a $15,000 healing retreat to Bali. The watches sold immediately for less than half their value because she didn't even bother getting them properly appraised. She kept saying once she got your lake house money, "We could have the perfect life," Mark said. But I realized there would always be another thing she deserved, another person who owed her something. Last week, I received a letter forwarded from Emily's last known address. It was from a debt collection agency. She'd listed me as a reference on a loan application claiming I was her business partner. The debt collector wanted to know about our joint business ventures. My lawyer sent them a cease and desist. Through mutual friends. I've learned Emily is now living with my mother after being evicted from her apartment. She's telling people she's writing a book about inheritance trauma. She even started a new GoFundMe for her art therapy practice. She has no certification, by the way, and she's engaged again to someone she met 2 months ago who understands her struggle. My mother has told the extended family that I'm dead to her, creating an elaborate narrative where I'm a monster who stole from his sister. Some believe her. Many don't. I've stopped caring. Sarah and I spent last weekend at the lake house. We finished all the repairs. The dock is rebuilt. The kitchen is updated properly, not the way Emily's wedding planner envisioned. And then the best news. We found out we're expecting our first child, a boy. We're planning to name him Thomas after Grandpa. As I sat on the dock watching the sunset, I thought about what this whole experience has taught me. 1. People will show you who they are when money's involved. Emily and my mother revealed themselves completely. The inheritance didn't change them. It exposed them. 2. Family isn't always about blood. My real family is Sarah, our coming son, my dad who supported me, and the memory of a grandfather who knew me better than I knew myself. 3. Honor the wishes of those who've passed. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. He saw what I was too blind to see for years. 4. Document everything. The journals, the video, the medical records. They saved me from a false narrative that almost became truth. 5. Sometimes losing family actually means gaining freedom. I mourn the family I thought I had, not the one I actually had. To those facing similar situations, stand your ground. Honor the deceased's wishes. Don't let emotional manipulation override legal documents. And remember, someone who truly loves you won't try to take what was freely given to you by someone else. Grandpa's lake house is more than property. It's a testament to a man who valued character over blood, effort over entitlement, and truth over manipulation. Every time I cast a line off the dock we rebuilt together, I thank him for seeing what I couldn't. Emily and my mother made their choices. They chose greed over gratitude, lies over love, manipulation over memory. They'll have to live with that. I've chosen peace, truth, and the legacy of a man. Who knew that family isn't about splitting everything equally? It's about giving what's right to those who've earned it through love, time, and genuine connection. This lake house isn't just my inheritance. My inheritance is the knowledge that I stood for what was right, even when it felt like it cost me everything I thought I had. Thank you all for your support through this journey. It's time to stop looking back and start building the future Grandpa envisioned when he left me this gift. To Grandpa, I kept my promise. The lake house remains with someone who sees its true value. Your legacy lives on, not in the timber and stone, but in the lessons you taught and the man you helped me become. So, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever had family turn on you over something like this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.